afternoon and good morning to everyone, and good evening, depending on where you're watching from, wherever in the world. Welcome to today's live stream. I was just checking the comments in Rumble. Oops, I forgot to click go live on Instagram. Let me do that. The YouTube stream should be happening now. Yes, it is. Fantastic. And we should also be live on Instagram. I'm hoping it's live on X. I can see it's live on Rumble. Let me double check that we're live on X. Yes, we are. Fantastic. Okay. So a couple of people in the comments saying, is this going to be the usual time? No, I don't intend on doing live streams at this time all the time. I was having enormous issues with Rumble for some reason last night, and so I couldn't go live. And Friday nights aren't going to be my usual live either. You know me, the schedule changes, but I'll always notify in our Telegram and on socials when we're going live. First and foremost, I want to encourage people, if you're watching on YouTube, get into our Rumble channel. Same goes for Instagram, because we cover a lot of stuff that requires a censorship-free platform, and also it's in landscape. We've got a lot of clips and things to go through today to show the advancements in the agenda to digitize humanity. So if you're watching on Instagram, head to our Rumble. It is Z Media, Z-triple-E Media, all one word. You can go to the link in my bio and click Rumble and it'll take you to it. If you're watching on YouTube, just head on over to Rumble. It's just a better platform. But in saying that, I appreciate everyone tuning in across all platforms. X, we're going to get to your comments today, and Rumble comments, but I'm going to give everyone a quick overview of what we need to talk about. So, as most people would be aware from some of my posts and all of the posts all over social media, it was a huge topic on X this week. Australia passed the under 16 social media age ban, which is really got nothing to do with children whatsoever. It is all about controlling adults online, and it's just amazing to witness the public sentiment about this. The backlash has been enormous, just like the mis and disinformation bill, which I won't go over all of that again, but basically the government trying to control all speech online and, Ministry of Truth on steroids. That failed miserably, and in our estimation, from speaking with people from Citizen Go and other, platforms, they would have received well in excess of 50,000 submissions that were, not wanting this mis and disinformation bill to go through. Then when it came to the social media age ban, the government literally gave Australians 24 hours to make submissions. And the latest numbers that I saw were that over 15,000 submissions were received in that 24-hour period. So enormous public response to the Australian government's decision to do this. Of course, they were pretending that this is about children, but, I really do have a very serious concern, and I'm not just saying this to be bombastic. I have a very serious concern about the sexual depravity that some people in our government have, because they devised this amazing plan in their eyes to protect the children, and yet didn't think that banning porn websites would be a good idea. No, in fact, that's allowed. And when Senator Matt Canavan, some of you would have seen that clip that I shared where Senator Matt Canavan was questioning to them as to why YouTube would be banned but Pornhub wouldn't, their response was, oh, well, the platforms are a different purpose. Well, if you look at the function of the platforms, it's a video sharing platform. People can like, people can comment. This is my understanding from what I've been told. I don't frequent these websites, but people can like, people can comment, they can share videos. I mean, really, it's exactly the same as YouTube, except one is explicit in nature and one is not so explicit, though you can find some really inappropriate content on YouTube, particularly targeted at children, funnily enough. But nonetheless, they didn't think that that porn should be banned for kids, just social media. So we have a few admissions, which I'm going to go through today, about what this is actually about. And we have some very, very significant advancements worldwide towards this AI agenda. In fact, tomorrow on Media Blackout, we're going to release some clips from an interview that Joe Rogan did with Mark Andreessen. Very, very interesting interview. This is a Silicon Valley guy who's talking about the monopoly that the Biden administration wanted to have on AI and the goals that they had for it. And I'm telling you now, he's describing the AI world society, which I still believe that particular expose that Zee Media did is the most important we've ever done. Everyone in the world needs to understand this. So I can see that a few more people some Instagram viewers have dropped off. Please go to our Rumble, link in bio, click on Rumble, get on there, because I'm going to start playing some clips and you won't be able to see it all. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to show everyone this speech from Matt Canavan. Now, I have a few things that I want to play for you today, but a few of them are 2-3 minutes in length, so they are a little bit longer. But I think that they're absolutely vital for people to see, even if you've seen them again. I've personally watched this speech quite a few times. It hits the nail on the head about the public sentiment and where the country is going, where the country of Australia is going. And I've always said, and everyone knows by now, I can't tell you how many people I meet in America who say to me, Australia seems like a test case for the New World Order. And so it's just abundantly clear now that the uniparty that's clearly established in Australia is just ramming through all of this stuff to get us to that, golden calf of Agenda 2030. Which we will touch on some of those advancements as well. But let's listen to Matt Canavan's speech on the under 16 social media age ban. It's excellent.
Have successfully disillusioned a whole generation of Australians with Australian politics. A whole generation of Australians have watched this saga, this sordid saga over the past week play out and be completely disillusioned with their democratic process that they should have an involvement in, that we've completely denied them their voice. I mean, maybe we've scheduled the debate for 10:30 p.m. on the last day of school because we know that all the people that will be impacted by this ban will be at bed. It's past their bedtime. They can't even watch it. They haven't been able to have a process through their Senate inquiry. We had 15,000 submissions in 24 hours. And we had an inquiry of 3 hours the day after. And nobody, of course, could read anything but a fraction of those submissions. Only less than 1% of them were published on the website before the report. This is an absolute outrage and a stitch-up of grand proportions. Why are we letting digital ID be a means of identification at all? It's not used at the moment at all, really. It's not in widespread use. So why don't we just rule that out right now? If it's something that comes into use in years to come, we can always change the law. There's a review built into this law in 2 years' time. We can do it then. If we were serious about responding to the concerns about digital ID, let's just get rid of it. And my amendment would do that. I've also think, why is it that we've got this bill that seeks to, the minister says, to help parents, and the word parent is not mentioned at all in the bill? There's not a single mention of the word parent in this bill. Why? Why aren't we helping parents rather than try to replace them? That's what this bill tries to do. It tries to set up a nanny state where we think here in Canberra that we can pass this law and all look how great we are, pat ourselves on the back, how we've saved the world, when it won't do that and it won't help at all. Parents use their own agency, their own interaction with their children to use social media responsibly. So I have an amendment which would allow some children to continue to use social media with parental approval. It's based on the law in Florida that's just gone through. Our inquiry barely looked at that law. It went through after an actual process. It got vetoed by the governor in the first instance. It went back to the Congress in Florida and they've improved it. That's the way a democracy should work. But we've just completely rode roughshod over that through this hasty process, truncated process this week. I have another amendment that would seek to narrow the definition here. There's a ridiculous definition in this bill which captures basically any app that enables interaction between two or more people, which is basically everything you do on the internet. It's going to cover apps like Strava. For bike riding, it's going to cover apps like Deputy that are used for people who work. 14-year-olds can get a job, but they can't have social media, apparently. Now, I know the minister's going to say that, we'll exempt them and we'll do all this, But why? Why create this uncertainty when, again, the Florida law has a much more targeted definition which focuses the law on apps which cause social harm? That's what we should be focused on here. Now, I don't have the time to go through the others in detail. I want to let other senators have their turn. But I do come back to the point that a whole generation has been activated by this process. There is a silver lining here, perhaps. Right now, a guy called Mr Anthony Kaloof is running a live stream of our broadcast here. He has 38,000 people watching. The official YouTube channel of Parliament has 800. He's got 38,000 young people absolutely pissed off with this Parliament right now watching. They are totally angry, and those people are going to grow up, and they're going to keep voting. And I think there's going to be a lot of change coming to our Parliament in years to come if we keep ignoring those people like we are tonight.
Such a powerful, powerful speech, and credit to Milk Bar TV for putting that together, and also credit to Ozverse The Agenda for live streaming the event. He's absolutely right. The official Parliament stream had 800 people watching, and yet 38,000, I think they even peaked at much higher numbers than that at one point. You know, watching this process go down, watching in horror my post, giving out an SOS to this situation where I said Australia is effectively right now, as we speak, undergoing something that can only be described as a complete dictatorial takeover of Australia. And mind you, I just saw, I was flicking through Instagram just then, and I saw someone saying in the comments, you know, I agree that children shouldn't have social media. By the way, I agree with you as well. And I've spoken about the fact that a parent of a child who tragically committed suicide as a result of bullying was out there advocating for this social media age ban. And, you know, without being insensitive about this situation, it is down to the parent to parent their children. It is down to the parent to say, you know what, social media, I mean, first and foremost, just plain and simple common sense, for goodness sake, that children shouldn't be on these apps. You know, if you're a parent that's allowing your children to be on social media with the disgusting stuff that's on there, by the way, with algorithms that are targeted to show them sexual, content, whether it be, you know, explicit or not, it's geared in that direction. So is YouTube. YouTube has its algorithms built in. People have exposed it about how there'll be, you know, children's, actually kids section, and you have drag stuff coming through and stuff that's just not appropriate for children whatsoever. And so, you know, if you're a parent allowing your children to be on these devices, please reconsider, for goodness sake. But to tell people that because some children have suffered as a result of this because of what I, deem irresponsible parenting, not taking the time. I mean, I'm not a parent and I'm educated on the fact that YouTube has, really inappropriate content for children, that social media apps their algorithms target you with sexual stuff. I mean, I don't follow any of that. And yet I'll be hit with a woman that's almost naked on my feed. Why would I want to see that? Imagine young boys seeing these things. I mean, it's really just common sense. And so a little bit of tough love to parents, letting them know that it is actually irresponsible, letting them have their young children on these apps is the solution here. But yet the solution is never to give the government control of parenting. And again, that's not what this is about. It was never about this. It is about advancing the ability for the government to force everyone to identify themselves online in order to use social media. And moving forward, it will be the internet. This is very much in line with the UK's online safety bill that I spoke about last year, where the government said, we're going to require everyone to have a government oversight over their entire phones, including their private messages, images, absolutely everything. And WhatsApp and Signal both said, we will no longer be able to provide our services to the UK because this violates our privacy policy. Not that I'm deeming WhatsApp or Signal safe. We all know that, Tucker Carlson was being spied on by the NSA over Signal. I'm not saying any of these apps are safe or that they offer the encryption that's promised. But what I'm saying is even those guys said this is way too far. We can't offer our services anymore in the UK. And what the government is trying to do essentially in Australia, they're saying, well, what's this, social media companies will just pull out their services. Yes, that's the plan. The plan is to ban free speech platforms like X, which I don't agree is a fully free speech platform, but it's the best social media that we have at the moment. Let's be real. The ban is to eventually not even ban them, to get these companies to pull out, to not be able to offer their service in a country because they can't meet the insane requirements of the government. That's the goal, because inside the AI world society that they say we're all in now, yes, the UN says that, they have control, a complete control over all information. AI will know every movement, every conversation, every thought, and you'll all be linked to this hive mind nonsense. This is the stated plan. And this is why a test case for the New World Order, like Australia, is so aggressively pushing this. And by the way, I have some evidence of that. So I want to take you through to an article from the expose, which I am definitely going to find. Let me just find it. There it is, Apple. And I will make sure that it's nice and big on screen for you all so that you can see it. I posted this and I said, now we know why there was such a huge rush for Australia to pass this. So Apple's patent to use body parts to identify people when their face is not visible to a camera is granted. This article was published on the 29th of November. Apple has been granted a patent for identity recognition utilizing face-associated body characteristics, which combines facial recognition technology with other body characteristics to identify people even when their faces are not visible to the camera. When was the patent filed? All the way back in 2022, but when was it granted? 26th of November. Well, it makes sense that the Australian government would really rush to pass this social media age ban, which, by the way, they've said they're going to use age assurance technology, not digital ID. Although they haven't ruled that out, they're going to use age assurance technology, where the trials are being completed next year. So the trials haven't even been completed yet. They're pushing this through. Age assurance technology to ensure that people are over 16. Well, what is age assurance technology? Golly gosh, it sounds like what Apple just got granted on the 26th of November. So of course the Australian government would be pushing for this to be implemented before the world wakes up to the fact that Apple is going to be spying on your every single move. And this is, something that Zoom started doing a while ago, where they said that their AI would now be capturing your likeness as you utilize their service. What is that about? That's about creating your digital twin in the metaverse, which is actually the AI world society. So if people haven't seen our previous series on that, I'm going to bring it up on screen again. I know I harp on about this a lot, but I'm so concerned that people do not understand the end game here. And it's evidenced by the fact that so many people are cheering on things like using more AI in government, which, by the way, could be, could help with efficiency, but not without that human oversight. And the problem is they want to eliminate that human oversight. I even posted a warning about this the other day, and someone said, well, I actually think AI would do a better job at government than the idiots we have in place at the moment. And I think that's been the point all along. I've said for a very long time, they are creating a hatred and a disdain for themselves on purpose, coming out bold-faced tyranny, because they want you to hate governments in order to get you to accept a one world leader eventually. So that's what I think that all of this has been about. But I'll continue with this article. So it says that it describes a system that associates facial recognition with other body characteristics such as clothing, gait, or gesture to recognize certain people, even your gestures. So, I am the only one that, it's seen doing this, the way that I shake my head, the way that I, move my hands. Think about how much this AI is actually assessing about you. It will know. Say someone removes right now. This is a really creepy example, but I'm giving it to you because maybe it'll make it more real for people. Say, for example, someone takes out digitally alters this snippet of this video and has my face removed, my clothing removed. All you can see is my sleeves. There's no background. There's no Z Media logo. There's nothing. No Maria Zeee in the corner. Okay, and it's just my hands doing this. Well, the AI will know me and my gestures so well that it will know that's Maria Zeee. So what happens in future if you decide to wear clothing, if you decide to cover your face because you don't want to be surveilled 24/7, if you decide to, somehow disguise yourself because you don't want to be in this digital prison. Oh, well, AI's already captured your wrists. It's really, or you cover your entire body. Oh, well, it's captured your gait. And, gone are the days where I've heard of soldiers that used to put a rock in their shoe so that they wouldn't be able to be identified by their walks. Yeah. Maybe that'll help, guys. Maybe if we put a rock in our shoe and wear a brand new wardrobe every time we head out with a completely different, fashion. But maybe AI will be taking measurements to the nanometer of your shoulders. I mean, this is how far these people want to take it. The World Economic Forum actually bragged about the fact that they have, with AI, created a digital library of every single leaf and blade of grass on Earth. Do we understand how expansive this AI monitoring is? I'm not sure that people do. They literally have they are currently able to monitor every single blade of grass on Earth. And if you think that that's not possible, well, tell me how it's so possible that someone can put up a post that is opposing lockdowns on social media and the police turn up at their door like that. Tell me how anonymous accounts continue to get doxxed. I mean, that's a very low level, example of just how far this surveillance goes. But I fear that people don't realize how advanced this all really is already. It goes on to say that the system works by linking a gallery of body croppings, such as torso, arms, or legs, with their face biometrics, then comparing the data with a live video feed, and proceeds in a stepped approach to identify face, body parts, and physical characteristics, which include body shape, skin color, or the texture or color of clothing. The resulting data constitutes a cluster of body prints, which can be assigned a confidence score against a person's face print and other characteristics, with storage periods as brief as 24 hours for certain identifiers like clothing. And they say it's 24 hours, but we all know that once this is there, it's there. Okay. And maybe it's initially stored in one spot for 24 hours, but then it gets moved to another spot. I mean, who's really got control over this? How do we really know? And it then says that the system can even recognize people based on their body characteristics, even if they're wearing different clothes, and can re-register their clothes periodically to maintain accurate information. I hadn't even read that line, and that's what I was suggesting with my former example. So this is the most dystopian Skynet crap you've heard of in your life, but it is happening as we speak. So the patent is primarily directed to performing identity recognition in a home environment setting. Okay, because we need that too. We need it to also be constantly watching us in our homes. Apple notes that it should not be constituted as being limited to this setting. Yes, of course. And it can be used in homes, office buildings, warehouses, parking lots, public parks. And if you recall when we did that... When I did that segment on InfoWars very, very long time ago about the smart city plans in Australia, and the New South Wales government had even published some of what they were trialling, including street furniture that monitors you. The street furniture is watching you, like a park bench. So we're not just talking about, your geolocations on your phone or whatever. We're talking about every single thing in the world being connected to this 24/7 surveillance system. And the real-time aspect is I think something a lot of people don't understand either. It's not like it'll catch it and then it takes a while to notify the authorities. No, we're talking real-time monitoring because AI is so fast at this stuff. So it's really, really serious. And here is what Rennick, when Senator Rennick was questioning them about the possibility of people using VPNs, listen to what they said.
What about VPNs? I mean, about 1.5 billion people in the world have VPNs. Is this going to be able to cope with VPNs, this particular legislation?
We had a discussion about VPNs just before. Did you want to go back to that?
Yeah, sure. So that will partly go to the reasonable steps requirement that the platforms are required to take. As we discussed before, like it or not, people put a lot of information on a platform. When you post a photo, typically the photo is geotagged. You may also talk about the location you're in. So the obligation is on the platforms to have systems, to take reasonable steps, to check if that age-restricted users, so under 16. So it's a binary, is this person under or over 16? No other information. That's what it's looking at. So in terms of the steps, if someone is using a VPN, but throughout, over the course of a year, their posts are, I went to the Bulldogs Roosters match today, I'm at Bondi Beach today, then the platform will be able to see that and take the reasonable steps to at least require some other form of age assurance from that person because there is a reasonable assumption that person is in Sydney, for example.
Okay, so, yeah, and I'd sort of call that a form of surveillance, but...
We'll get you to wrap up, Senator Rennick.
Okay.
Senator,
so
I just point out that people put that data on platforms.
But isn't this going to cost the platforms a lot of money in the end? They're going to start on charging this?
Senator, the charging that happens with social media is through advertising. That's how they make their money. The point that Mr. Irwin's making is that the existence of a VPN or the use of VPN does not let platforms off the hook in relation to the age requirement.
So I've seen a lot of people saying, well, I'll just start using a VPN, except the Australian government has already thought of that. They're saying the use of a VPN right there at the end, not only to mention, you know, he's saying, oh, well, some people put an incredible amount of data willingly onto the internet when they post. Well, there's so many settings within your phone that capture all of that anyway, whether you like it or not. And the geolocation data, Apple is collecting that. I don't know that there's a way to actually stop them from collecting that, right? Because we've just, as a whole of society, consented to this mass surveillance through convenience. Okay, we're at that point. There's no point denying it. But then he goes on to say, well, the VPN, the platforms will not be exempt from the VPN issue either. So just because someone has a VPN, it's registering from another location rather, the government will still require the age assurance verification, which of course is, as we saw revealed through the legislation itself, talking about, I covered that on the last broadcast, talking about the biometric surveillance, talking about all the different ways through capturing a person's likeness or movements or whatever the case may be, that the government will be assuring your age. So digital ID, where that comes into it, and of course they've made sure that's, you know, not guaranteed that it's not going to come into it, where the digital ID aspect is then your banks linking to your social media activity, your ability to buy a house, to rent a house, to get a job. You know, they're talking about AI assessing people's job applications based on their online activity. People, you know, you think about employers already going to your social media and making a decision based on your character based on your social media activity. That's exactly what AI will be doing, but the parameters will be set by those who control it, which of course are never good characters, right? Never. And I don't suppose they will be either. So we're talking about literally your life eventually becoming impossible without a digital ID, and any dissent expressed online, social media, or elsewhere becoming impossible with a digital ID. But Peter Dutton thinks that this is a really, really great idea. So I just want to play that for everyone to see that the Liberal Party thinks that having this level of surveillance in your life is just a cracking idea.
I think it's a cracking outcome, and we've pushed the government to this position, and we announced in June that we would do this in our first 100 days in government. And I think it's something that most parents around the country would give a head nod to, because these big tech companies only see our kids as a profit-making venture. They don't care about the content that they're seeing online, the grooming that takes place, the sharing of information of an adult nature. We've spoken to parents who have lost their kids to suicide because of the social media intrusion, and the companies have the technology now. Without collecting any of your data, they can identify your face as being under or over 16, and they should deploy that technology as they do across a number of their other platforms, and that way hopefully we can keep young impressionable minds off Snapchat and other social media platforms like that.
Well, if you have a serious problem with grooming being done online, we haven't seen any major news stories about, and I've made this point so many times, major news stories about groomers or pedophile rings at all being taken down, yet they have this amazing surveillance and dedicated teams within the police force and probably ASIO, surveilling all of this, and yet no major takedown of groomers or pedophile rings. Just, we're just going to parent your children for you. If parents do have these concerns, it's quite simple. Don't let them on social media. Raise your children in a way where they actually obey and respect you. I mean, I could go on forever about the problems in society that have led to this, that have led to some parents, which, by the way, there are barely any parents who agree with this legislation. Let me just make that absolutely clear. But for the ones that do, I could talk forever on how their style of parenting has led to that outcome, that the government needs to be the child's parent. If you think that the government needs to be your child's parent, you've failed as a parent. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. There should never be a time where you want a government body to take over parenting for you. What are you doing with children in the first place? It's outrageous. It's outrageous. But the sentiment of people worldwide is really increasingly fed up with these globalist monsters, and the resistance to them is growing. This is a French MEP, Sarah Canavan, talking directly to Ursula von der Leyen about the ways in which people just despise her. Take a listen to this.
Madam van der Leyen, you are indeed well aware that the European peoples are absolutely not interested in this election of commissioners. And I want to tell you to your face, Madam van der Leyen, that this is your fault. Through backroom deals, petty partisan calculations, and technocratic hypocrisy, you have managed to disgust citizens with European institutions. They don't even want to know who will be appointed commissioner today, nor why. They know that these commissioners will be a reflection of you, of what you have made of Europe over the past 5 years. A stifling, dangerous, and stagnant Europe. I want to tell these millions of voters that for the next 5 years, I will not let you do as you please. You will not turn our continent into a soulless and uninteresting space where your technocratic whims rule and dictate morality. With all those in this assembly who are committed to truth and freedom, we will break the silence that prevails in your institution. You will undoubtedly win this election, but we will make you lose everything else. In the next 5 years, we will grant you no respite. We will no longer allow you to operate in the shadows. We will be the spotlight focused on your actions. Europeans must know the truth. They want it, they need it, and they have the right to it. Thank you.
Isn't that absolutely refreshing? And that is what we're seeing. We're seeing from some of these courageous leaders like this French MEP, like some of the Croatian MEPs that spoke out during COVID, like some of the senators in Australia, antique Senator Matt Canavan, Rennick, Malcolm Roberts, Pauline Hanson, really standing up against this. And perhaps the most surprising thing is Jacinta Price actually voted for the ban. Shame on you. You sold out the Australian people, but people like Senator Payman did not. And people like Lydia Thorpe did not want to support this. And this is, it's been an interesting paradigm shift since COVID that I've observed. You have even, people like AOC, for example, in America, who was really the laughing stock of the right, making some points at times that make a little bit of sense. You have people like Senator Payman saying this is a nonsense. We should be letting parents, be parenting their children. What is with us, bringing the government into our children's lives? What is this madness? I don't think she fully understands the agenda, but she's someone that makes sense, even though I disagree with a lot of her points. And this is actually happening. I even posted Senator Lambie, who turned on the Australian people during COVID, said she's going to threaten us, actually saying she's going to come after us, lock, stock and barrel. Now, recognizing that this system that these people are running is dictatorial. They didn't see it during COVID because there was so much fear there. They don't see it in regards to certain things that challenge their worldview and their biases. Senator Thorpe sort of views everything through this, victim mentality in many people's opinion. And it's all about, getting, some sort of reconciliation or whatever the case may be for historical events that really don't impact anyone who wants to rise above them anymore. But, they seem to make these decisions that are actually reflective of the public sentiment. It's really fascinating to see this occurring. Even Senator David Shoebridge voicing his concerns about the Disinfo bill or the social media age ban when he was very much in support of digital ID. You see this shift, this thinking. Their thinking is opening up because it's not clouded by the fear of COVID anymore. And, it really is a fascinating thing to be agreeing with some people on the left. And that's why I don't think that we should view this anymore as a left and right paradigm. I've said that for a long time, even though those people are sort of more easily identifiable by saying they're either left or right. But I believe that's a construct that's been given to us so that it will keep us divided. I'm not saying we have to unite on all these issues, but where we have senators that are actually willing to listen to us and realizing, oh my gosh, there is a serious problem here. It's like a dictatorial, totalitarian takeover in this country. We've got to do something to stop this. I think that's a really, really positive sign. And we hear more of these messages. So where does that leave a country like Australia? Well, the social media age ban doesn't take effect straight away. And it's really interesting because Albanese got fact-checked. Let me see if I can find that tweet. I think I had it up, but I don't know if I still have it. Here we go. So he got fact-checked, as he regularly does on X, because he is a virulent spreader of actual false information. So Parliament has just made this 16 years the minimum age for social media, and it will now officially become law. We're doing everything we can to keep our kids safe, except stopping them from watching porn and making sure that we have drag queens behind locked doors in the Victorian Parliament with underage children. That's how we keep them safe in Australia. And readers added the context, saying that many welfare groups, including the Australian Human Rights Commission, Suicide Prevention Australia, have raised concerns about this law. The law will also require all adult Australians to authenticate themselves before accessing a social media site or app. My response to Albanese got quite a positive response. I said, this government is utterly demonic. You apparently want children to watch porn because that's not banned. And every single person in your comments knows this is a China-style social credit system for adults online. Look at your comments. They are filled with disgust. You are all despicable excuses for human beings. Thank you, though, because hundreds of thousands of people have been politically activated through this process and finally woken up to the fact that the Australian government is fully, wholly selling its country out to a one-world government through their little uniparty, which is on full display. All the riches in the world that you've been promised will not be worth it when the same people you're clearly serving ultimately turn on you They always do, because evil always eats itself. Good luck to you, little man. Little, small, very, very small, weak, pathetic man. But I just wanted to go through some of these comments and the public sentiment here, although it seems Albanese has been caught utilising bots on Facebook. Topher Field posted a few screenshots of people, top fans and other people, using pretty much exactly the same language in their comments supporting Albanese. So it appears that he's utilising bots. And I would love for someone to see whether there is something that can be done to hold him to account for that, because that is misleading the public as a public servant. But I just want to show you some of these comments of the public disdain. If you're into keeping kids safe, get grown men with paraphilias out of girls' bathrooms and change rooms. You dollar store authoritarian. That's from Sal Grover. From the Tickle vs. Giggle case. Most people would know about that. One of the most dangerous pieces of legislation ever passed is this. We have 12 months to work out the details of the bills, which means policy on the go. And Mick Amias has put here the Suicide Australia release on this. Your social media ban summed up in 20 seconds from Milk Bar. This is absolutely not going to keep one single kid safe, but you know that. And you know that we know that you know that, but you did it anyway. Albanese's and Labor's biggest advantage was simply not being Dutton and the Liberals, but now they're very nearly just as bad. World-leading legislation, YouTube, but yes to Pornhub. And, you know, I don't want to read through every single comment here, but I'm telling you, I couldn't find a positive comment on here. Not a single positive comment on here. And so I particularly liked that response. You know, welcome to the Australian Hunger Games. I mean, you see the public sentiment here, and it's just not working. And outlets like you know, the mainstream media that are coming out and saying this is also great are literally dead outlets. The mainstream media is dead. It's finished. It's, you know, it's not even taking its last breaths. It's done. It's done so much so that the government has had to use Australian taxpayer dollars to bail out Channel 10, owned by Paramount, a conglomerate with billions of dollars that certainly doesn't need your hard-earned tax money, to revive it in regional Australia. They have died such a horrible death, all these outlets, that your taxpayer dollars are being used to try and keep them afloat, because there's no one watching them anymore. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't agree with the government in the country. I'm not saying that there aren't sleepy people in the country, but that is now become the minority. And more people are very, very concerned with where this is heading. So as far as next year's election goes, my concerns, and I've said this publicly, is that we have a bunch of minor parties, but we don't really have a third option, an option where we can go, okay, if we have all these amazing candidates, we can get a bunch in, we can get a different option as a prime minister. You know, the way that the system is set up right now is the best that we can get is just get more senators and MPs inside Parliament to challenge a dictator like Albanese. And I keep thinking there has to be a better way to do this. But look, when it comes to next year's election, I will absolutely help as much as I can. I have said that if there is a candidate that comes fully against the New World Order, the New World Order that's rising to the top, I will back that person tirelessly, and I mean that with all my heart. I would campaign for that person, and I'm telling you that a majority of Australians would be the same, because the determination of people worldwide, as you saw from even that MEP in France, everyone is rising up against these totalitarian leaders. And so the determination is only growing. They want to weaken us, but we're just growing stronger with every single tyrannical move. It's backfiring, marvelously backfiring. And, you know, it really was indicative as well. You all saw Kim Williams from the ABC criticizing Rogan. Now, I don't necessarily love everything about Joe Rogan, but the man has a huge podcast. He's done incredibly well. You have to recognize the success there. And, you know, I've listened to a few of his podcasts and I think that they've been great. Do they endanger me? No, they don't, because I'm not an idiot and I have my own brain. But the ABC in Australia, which is taxpayer funded, doesn't want you to have your own brain. They think that they need to be the ones to tell you the truth. And so I have two clips now that I want to play you. The first one being the first one where Kim Williams, the chairman of the ABC, initially criticized Joe Rogan. The reason I'm playing this is because the follow-up from this just shows you the utter contempt that these people have for the public. But let's take a listen to this.
I have a question about Joe Rogan, and you've sort of touched on elements of this in the US. He's obviously the world's most popular podcast host. He has 3 billion listeners. He's sort of managed to successfully capture that bro market in America. And his influence is such that in the wake of the US election, the Democrats have said that one of Kamala Harris's mistakes was that she didn't appear on his program. So I'm just wondering if you had any observations about what's behind the Joe Rogan effect, how you believe he's managed to so successfully capture this huge market. And then for us here in Australia, you know, how would or should the ABC be going about capturing that kind of audience?
Look, I'm not sure that I'm the right person to respond to that question. I am not a consumer or enthusiast about Mr. Rogan and his work.
Shocking.
I am not one of the 3 billion, and I'm unlikely to be 3 billion and one anytime soon. I think people like Mr. Rogan prey on people's vulnerabilities. They prey on fear. They prey on anxiety. They prey on all of the elements that contribute to uncertainty in society, and they entrepreneur fantasy outcomes and conspiracy outcomes as being a normal part of social narrative. I personally find it deeply repulsive, and to think that someone has such remarkable power in the United States is something that I look at in disbelief. I'm also absolutely in dismay that this can be a source of public entertainment when it's really treating the public as plunder for purposes that are really quite malevolent.
Treating the public as plunder, coming from a dried raisin who is living off Australian taxpayers at the National Press Conference of Australia, the dead press. Imagine someone who leeches off taxpayers, accusing someone else of plundering the nation, the public. What a disgrace of a human being this man is. What an absolute embarrassment. And that is exactly what he is. He is an embarrassment. And she says, he acknowledges there, by the way, pay attention to the fact that he acknowledges 3 billion listeners. Okay, because he later denies that he had knowledge of 3 billion listeners. But how should the ABC go about capturing that audience? Well, let me tell you, love, it's not by responding to him when he says, I'm not one of them, by saying, shocking, like it's somehow bad to be an audience of an independent podcaster. And mind you, they're talking to all independent media when they're talking this way, by the way. It's not just Joe Rogan that they have disdain for. It's me. It's you. It's anyone who doesn't agree with them and threatens their monopoly, which he also admits, by the way, and we'll play that clip in a moment. But it's just amazing that he finds it shocking and despicable and disgusting and whatever other, sensationalist words he used to describe the fact that people are flocking to independent sources rather than the dried up grapes at ABC. It is phenomenal. in the worst possible way to witness the absolute ignorance of these people. How should the ABC go about capturing that audience? Perhaps stop treating them with utter contempt as you gobble our tax dollars to spew nonsense 24 hours a day. Have you ever tried to watch the ABC? I'm challenging anyone from any other country other than Australia, because Australians already know not to watch. Has anyone ever tried to watch the ABC? It literally feels like you're having you're having a lobotomy, because your intelligence is being replaced by utter stupidity. That's what it feels like watching an ABC broadcast. Like they're removing your brain and inserting Albanese's wish list into your mind, the UN's wish list into your mind. They're creating a stupid class of people, which, by the way, anyone who still listens to propaganda outlets of the government, state-funded media in any country really, should feel. My goodness, what a disgrace of a human. But I want to show you the double down on his attack on Rogan, but not just Rogan, all of his critics. And I'm gonna play this and commentate through it, and hopefully there's no echo as I'm doing that.
It's 22 minutes to 9.
I should just say this was on an ABC radio interview that Kim Williams just did.
Kim Williams is the chair of the ABC. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Raf. Good to be with you.
Do you think maybe Joe Rogan's the future and we're the past?
Well, I certainly hope not. I've never spent, to be perfectly frank, a lot of time thinking about Joe Rogan. I'm aware of his ubiquitous presence in many of the elements of podcast land. I wasn't aware until yesterday that he had 3 billion followers.
So apparently he wasn't aware until yesterday that he had 3 billion followers, and yet he acknowledged to that journalist that he has 3 billion followers. So that's very interesting. We'll continue.
I'd have to admit to having some skepticism as to that number.
Right. So he's saying that he has skepticism to that number. So who's the conspiracy theorist here, Kim Williams? Because you can very easily track the numbers of any single person by looking at their subscriber lists, by looking at how many people tune in, the views that they get, Spotify, YouTube, wherever else. I don't know where Joe Rogan broadcasts. As I said, I'm not actually a regular listener. I'm just defending someone or defending the concept of independent media here. But, you know, he's a conspiracy theorist. I'm skeptical of that number. Really? Are you really? Well, why don't you go, if you're skeptical about some of the support that some of these people get, why don't you go to Anthony Albanese's Facebook page, where he's got person after person after person copy and pasting their support for Albanese? Why don't you be skeptical of that, Mr. Kim Williams? We'll continue.
But he's obviously been a very influential character in America.
So there's 50 million people have watched Donald Trump's interview with Joe Rogan. So maybe not Joe Rogan. Kamala Harris actually did an interview with Call Me Daddy. So she's one of the most popular podcasters after Joe Rogan. That had a ton of listeners. That was not a facetious question of mine. Are you worried that podcasts that don't provide the scrutiny that you might get on the ABC, that they are the future and that we really are going out of fashion?
Well, I would hope that the best antidote to misinformation and more alarmingly disinformation, and we should clarify both those terms,
So let me just pause it there. So he asks him, are you worried that podcasts are, overtaking us and that we are, essentially in the past? And he responds by claiming that all of these podcasts are spreading mis and disinformation. That is mis and disinformation. By claiming that, by blanket statement that podcasts are spreading mis and disinformation, that is in itself a very, very false statement. You can't possibly issue a blanket statement like that. This is why no one listens to you. So I go back to that blonde-haired journalist who said, how can the ABC be more relevant? By not being this guy. We'll continue.
Information relates to false information that is spread often due to ignorance or mistake or in good faith, but which actually is not done with an intention to deceive people. But
again, he's claiming that everyone who's an independent podcaster, which, by the way, we were born out of the fact that the mainstream media, including the ABC, blatantly lied to the public for years on end. Safe and Effective being the number one lie that was repeated and babbled by these lunatics on air every single day, brainwashing the Australian people, when we know for a fact now that Safe and Effective were both lies. Outright, blatant lies. And this man is claiming, I'm just going to go back a bit because this is astounding to me.
Antidote to misinformation and more alarmingly disinformation, and we should clarify both those terms. Misinformation relates to false information that is spread often due to ignorance or mistake or in good faith, but which actually is not done with an intention to deceive people. But disinformation is quite the opposite. It's the deliberate spreading of false information.
So he's actually claiming, that blanket statement again, that podcasters, their intention. So he's now saying that the intention of this stream is judging my intention by default, that the intention of my stream is to deceive people. Really? Because my broadcasts and a million other people around the world were born out of the fact that we just desperately wanted to tell the truth, get through the lies of the mainstream media, including the ABC's lies, which have been caught on numerous occasions lying and altering footage and God knows what else. That our intention is to deceive when all we've ever done is try to tell the truth. And by the way, do a much better job of redacting and correcting than the mainstream media ever could possibly imagine to try to do. We'll continue.
So don't you need more than hope? You're hoping.
No, I think the best antidote to it, Raf, is an abundance of truthful information and validated information and verified information. I mean, Joe Rogan did an enormous, in my view, amount of damage back in 2020 and 2021 when he was particularly virulent in many of his remarks about COVID vaccinations and COVID vaccinations for the young in particular. And he was taken on by Anthony Fauci very severely in a very famous public.
So he's claiming that Anthony Fauci, who is a literal living criminal, who just hasn't been convicted yet, who has been caught lying in multiple hearings in the US, multiple hearings being caught lying about his involvement in Wuhan and the funding that the NIH provided. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That because Anthony Fauci took on Rogan is a spreader of misinformation who did a lot of damage during COVID. So he's still maintaining that the ABC or the position of the ABC is the truth there, even though there are a myriad of peer-reviewed studies that we, by the way, we independent podcasters bring with receipts every single time to prove to the public that we're telling the truth. We have to work infinitely harder than these clowns who just get a platform and get television channels and government funded whatever they want. We have to work 10 times as hard as these people to get to the truth because it is so buried, and we bring the receipts every single time. I'm not saying all podcasters do, but I can tell you anyone who watches ours, I just speak for myself. When we make a claim, we have 10 articles, peer-reviewed studies, doctors, everything to back up something that we've said. And when we think it's opinion or we're not sure yet, we present it as a theory. We have done so much more due diligence as journalists, as independent journalists, than these monsters in the mainstream media. It's unbelievable. Anyway.
Stoush. I don't think people have unlimited license to say what they want simply because they believe something to be so.
Actually, people do have that unlimited license. Not that I'm saying that they should just go around lying every single day like the ABC does, but people do have unlimited license to say whatever they want. It's called free speech. Bar the things that are illegal, like inciting violence, is already illegal. You're actually allowed to say whatever the heck you want, especially in the United States, which has a Bill of Rights that protects people's rights to do that. But he wouldn't understand that, would he?
We must perform to higher standards. We must perform to standards that have regard to facts. We have to perform to standards that actually have scientific validity. We have to perform to standards that have some concern for community and for community cohesion. I think Joe Rogan
for the scientific facts, like using Fauci as a source. That's science, right? Because Fauci said, I'm science. And we have to have regard for the community and social cohesion. Really? Well, how does that fare when the ABC spends their time calling Australians racist during a referendum? Or, constantly race baiting on their broadcasts, causing racial division in the country with their reporting by claiming Australia has a racism problem when it doesn't, because they're learning from the model that destroyed the United States where race is concerned. And DEI, which, again, the US is leading with companies like Walmart pulling out, Harley Davidson, Ford, all pulling out of DEI because it is destroying their country. How does that fare with your version of social cohesion, Kim?
Times, not all uniformly, but at times breaks those rules. What fascinates me is you say something negative about Joe Rogan, and I have been swarmed with the most unbelievably vicious responses.
Sorry, it's taking me a moment because I have to keep unmuting myself. He's saying, I have been swarmed with the most unbelievably vicious responses. Listen to what this snowflake thinks is a vicious response. He gives you examples of vicious responses in a moment. And anyone who has spent more than 2 minutes online has been exposed to actual vicious responses. I remember speaking out during COVID, getting DMs telling me that people hope I and my mother die. Getting emails threatening my life, getting real threats. And this is what this guy calls vicious responses, all the while then claiming that people are actually weak and unable to handle criticism. It's amazing. Let's listen.
I got one this morning that said that I should stay in my lane and watch out. And you read...
Guys, did you hear that vicious response? That I should stay in my lane and watch out. That is just, it's just unbelievably vicious. You weak little man. It's just unbelievably vicious. I gotta hear that again. I gotta hear it again.
With the most unbelievably vicious responses. I got one this morning that said that I should stay in my lane and watch out. And you read it and you think, what are you saying to me?
The world's richest man has accused the organisation you lead of being Australia's Pravda. That's Elon Musk.
I read that and I thought, where is this super sensitivity deriving from?
Guys, super sensitivity. So he goes from saying, I've received the most vicious responses, telling me to stay in my lane And then he proceeds to call others super sensitive. What a laughing stock. What a laughing stock. Your tax dollars are paying for this. Don't forget Australia.
You make a comment in response to a legitimate question from a journalist. You answer it concisely and give an honest answer in terms of what your own perception of Mr. Joe Rogan is. And suddenly I get this huge pile-on from people in the most aggressive way, saying that I have a warped outlook on the world, that I am an embarrassment to our nation, that I am in some way unhinged, that I am a supreme example of arrogance and disconnection with Australian society, and all.
Extremely aggressive guys telling him that he's an embarrassment and disconnected from Australian society is extreme aggression. But he just doesn't know why other people are so sensitive. I mean, isn't it astounding? Is it any wonder that the ABC's broadcasts and articles and entire organisation is so insufferable and such a stain on Australia? Such a burden on Australia. Is it any wonder with this man as the chairman? My God. He continues.
All manner of things. I have to say to you, Raf, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Do you think they've got glass jaws?
I really don't understand. I do think they've got glass jaws. I don't think they've got glass jaws. I think they've got glass corpus in toto. I mean, their whole body is made of glass. How can people react in such a frankly demonic fashion?
Okay, so we're all made of glass. We're all too fragile. He says extreme aggression, telling him he's an embarrassment constitutes extreme aggression, but we're the fragile ones. And on top of that, we're demonic. The people who criticize him are demonic. What an amazing word to leave his mouth. Listen to that one more time. One more time. This is astounding.
Do you think they've got glass jaws?
I really don't understand. I do think they've got glass jaws. I don't think they've got glass jaws. I think they've got glass corpus in toto. I mean, their whole body is made of glass. How can people react in such a frankly demonic fashion? I really stand back in disbelief.
But they are,
and it describes many of the things I'm referring to.
I understand. The issue, though, is Twitter now X. They've got audio on their platform. There is no doubt that people can go to listen to what they want to hear. Someone can switch away from this radio station right now and listen to who they want to listen to.
And I recommend they do.
On Elon Musk's platform. They are a threat to the ABC, aren't they?
Of course they're a threat to the ABC. I think they're a threat to all views that are contrarian to their own. Now, if they represent the new-found mainstream, our society has deep troubles, and the only response that is available is to back education and knowledge. Knowledge is the antidote to this kind of hysterical rubbish.
So he admits there. He admits, of course, they're a threat to the ABC. Of course, they're a threat to the mainstream media. Of course they are. This is why we are reacting in such an unhinged manner to the criticism, because do you know what's happened? During COVID and a little bit after, until Elon purchased X and sort of opened up public conversation, which, by the way, we have to credit him for. I mean, there are many things, concerns I have about, questions I have about Elon. I'm going to go into some of that. But, to just look at the public conversation that's happening, senators that were getting their speeches banned on YouTube, Senator Malcolm Roberts, it happened to, is now able to reach hundreds of thousands of people in Australia to be able to have that discussion, to decide how we want to shape society, because that's how this works. Public servants are there to serve us, not to tell us how we need to think. And it's just astounding to me to hear these people. It's offensive in the most, I mean, I can't describe how offensive it is hearing someone whose paycheck comes from my hard work, my taxes, the hard work of the Australian people who are busting their butts when their energy bills are through the roof because of a government that wants to see them destroyed. And he has the nerve to call us demonic? Well, little blonde lady, hopefully you'll see this broadcast. You'll see the number of people who watch broadcasts like this. And maybe that'll answer your question, because your answer is certainly not coming from very disconnected people like that. Astounding, astounding. Just absolutely astounding. Well, another really hilarious thing happened this week. Many of you know I conducted an interview with Călin Georgescu from Romania. He is now and at the time a running candidate for president of Romania. Since that interview, he actually won the first round, and now Romania is saying we need an election recount because they don't want an anti-globalist leader in running their country. And so it's really, really hilarious. CNN Romania actually did this hit piece on me and Călin, and I wanted to play that for everyone. Apparently, I am some sort of a specialist in conspiracies, which is a really, really honorable title. Thank you to CNN for that. I've worked very hard at being a specialist in conspiracies. I always bring the evidence and the documents, so the fact that you recognize that is really, really wonderful. I am truly humbled. But in their hit piece, they wrote, Călin Georgescu even shocked Australia. What he said in an interview, 7 billion people will be killed by corporations. Mind you, I've translated this from Romanian. It says that Călin Georgescu also shocked Australia, not just Romania. In an interview with a publication there, well, first of all, CNN, you know how we're talking about how independent media always brings the facts and you don't always bring the facts, and the mainstream media actually like regularly lies to people and doesn't do their due diligence. Well, that publication didn't come out of Australia. It actually came out of the United States. So there's that. He announced that humanity as we know it would soon disappear. Specifically, 7.5 billion people are expected to be killed by large corporations. The interview was given to independent journalist Maria Zeee, 3 E's also, so CNN Romania can't even spell properly. How freaking embarrassing. Also, a conspiracy theory, I think it's meant to say theorist, had no relevance for Romanians, being broadcast only in Australia. Okay, so again, mainstream media, you claim you come with the facts, and I'm sure that Kim Williams of the ABC thinks very highly of CNN, and you claim you always come with the facts and you do your due diligence, and all these independent outlets just constantly lie and spread mis and disinformation, and these guys are saying that the broadcast happened only in Australia. So I can understand maybe the first part where they thought that, oh, I'm Australian. Mind you, there were other outlets in Romania claiming that Z Media is ZEE Media from India. I'm not Indian. I'm not Indian. Z Media is not an Indian outlet. That's a different outlet. So the fact that these people can't even spell right, can't even, look at the fact that they're linking to an Indian website, for goodness sake. I mean, this is how sloppy and pathetic the mainstream media is, really, truly. And saying here being broadcast only in Australia. Well, if you just did a little bit of searching, you would find that Rumble and zmedia.com are actually worldwide websites. It's on the World Wide Web, and it goes on the internet, which can be accessed worldwide, which means it's not only broadcast in Australia. So maybe CNN needs a lesson or two on how the internet works. I don't know. I'm happy to help them out anytime they want. But here's the hit piece. It's really hilarious. I want to air the whole thing for you. And kudos to Alan from Our Voices Matter for adding the subtitles. Let's have a chuckle at this.
Elin Georgescu a ajuns să șocheze și Australia, nu doar România. Într-un interviu acordat unei publicații de acolo, a anunțat că omenirea, așa cum o știm, va dispărea curând.
Concret, spune el, 7,5 miliarde de oameni ar urma să fie uciși de marile corporații cu ajutorul ONU și al Organizației Mondiale a Sănătății și a altor organisme care i-au venit în minte.
Asta în timp ce alte instituții controlează vremea și produc dezastre.
Interviul acordat jurnalistei independente Maria Zeee și ea, o adeptă a teoriilor conspirației, nu avea nicio relevanță pentru români, fiind difuzat doar în Australia, însă el a servit unui scop. Curățat și editat de declarațiile halucinante, a fost distribuit ulterior în clipuri mici pe TikTok, cu mesaje cheie pentru români și sub aparența unei discuții cu un jurnalist serios. Părțile pe care nu le-au văzut românii sunt însă alarmante. Pentru a se prezenta drept salvator, Călin Georgescu a găsit de la ce să ne salveze, de la planul corporațiilor să ne ucidă pe aproape toți.
They have one simple plan. They have to change the human being in robots and they to serve them. And the population to be reduced until 500 million. In fact, this is the objective, which ultimately I find also myself. And in fact, everybody knows today. I mean, it's not any, how I can say, any secret what they want to reduce the population from the planet.
De altfel, marile companii sunt înfierate de candidatul prezidențial într-un anume fel, încât până și jurnalista care îl intervievează, specializată pe teorii ale conspirației, spune că trebuie să verifice informațiile.
For example, water. Water is totally manipulated, for example, by Nestle, who pick up all the water from one country, from Africa, or from others anyway, 3 countries, and they pay $1 for 1 ton, and they sell the Evian or the Nestle bottle of 300 milliliters with €5,
I wasn't aware of that. I have to look into that more, certainly.
Compania despre care vorbește folosește surse de apă din Franța, Italia și chiar Liban, care sunt pe alt continent decât cel african. În plus, aceasta reprezintă doar 13% din piața globală. Însă Călin Georgescu vrea să ne convingă că datele factuale și concrete sunt doar o manipulare pusă la cale la nivel global de entități necunoscute care ne țin prizonieri.
They leave you to believe that you are free, but in fact you are not free. With other words, you are in a matrix. And if you don't understand that you are in a matrix, you cannot go out from matrix. This is a problem.
Pe de altă parte, în același interviu, Georgescu mai vine cu o afirmație care denotă o strategie de simplificare a unor concepte, astfel încât să-și servească scopurile.
Communism and capitalism is equal. It's not any difference. Any difference. It's the same.
Totuși este o chestiune de cultură generală. Comunismul și capitalismul sunt două sisteme economice și politice distincte, cu filozofii și structuri fundamental opuse. Însă cea mai halucinantă afirmație vine spre finalul interviului. În România, vremea este controlată pentru a fi produse dezastre naturale.
Well, we have an example just recently out of North Carolina where you had a huge deal, $90 billion, if I'm not mistaken, for the lithium mines in this area. And a week later, they're hit by a hurricane that just should not have gone in that direction. And we learnt afterwards that residents were quietly protesting these lithium mines for 3 years prior to this deal being signed. So I'm looking at the destruction, the lengths of the destruction that they will go to, Callin, for these natural resources. And of course, smart cities play into that whole agenda, right?
Exactly. This was happened in all the countries, even in the United States. Not only in Africa, but everywhere. In Romania, everywhere.
Okay, so where do I start with that? Well, apart from the fact that they couldn't even get the country that the broadcast was being, broadcast to right, the say that this was shared in small clips on TikTok. The reality is Călin Georgescu is currently viral on almost every single platform, except it hasn't really reached X yet. I'm not sure why, but certainly on TikTok, we're talking millions of views of that interview and other clips of his. He is absolutely viral. This is why the establishment is going after him. Furthermore, what they fail to mention to the people is he is a former UN Special Rapporteur. He is a former UN official. He knows exactly how the UN works. And what they failed to mention was inside that interview, he exposes the corruption of the UN. He exposes that initially this organization was set up for world peace, human rights, all of this, but they do the opposite of it. And of course, you all know I've been targeted in a hit piece as well by AP fact check in Australia, who we all saw Kat Wong from that organization absolutely embarrass herself in front of Tucker Carlson when he was here in Australia. I mean, these organizations are all just discrediting themselves at this point. But they wrote a hit piece, which they claim is a fact check. I'm calling it a hit piece, on me, where they actually got Antonio Guterres's own representative to comment about my comments that the UN was trying to legalize pedophilia, which is clear as day in the 8 March principles that the UN backs, that they actually say they want to legalize sex with minors. And so, I mean, it's black and white, folks. But, you know, they say this, you know, all these people perceive this person as a serious journalist. And they can't even get the country right. I mean, come on. It's really fascinating. And this journalist has actually done an interview with the person that is very much on track to become the president of Romania, who is anti-establishment, anti-UN, anti all of the things that all of us hate, exposing weather modification, problems with the water, all of the things that we've all become aware of now that the mainstream continues to deny. Who's the serious journalist? The person that spoke to this person, or the people that can't even get my country right? I don't know. They also then quoted him saying that they want to change humans to robots, reduce the population, to 500 million. Well, that is the stated facts of people like Yuval Noah Harari of the World Economic Forum. Pardon me. This is going to happen now. It happens when I get worked up, folks. I apologize. So, this is the stated agenda of Yuval Noah Harari. Darn it. He says, we're going to merge humans with AI. We're going to turn them into robots. We're going to, you know, transcend the human state. We're going to become like gods. So is he lying when he says that? No, he's just simply quoting Yuval Noah Harari of the World Economic Forum. I mean, it's, you know, where's the fact check on that aspect? Then they say, he also says they want to reduce the population to 500 million. Well, that is, again, is something that was on the Georgia Guidestones. They said, the globalists, the ones in control, said we need to maintain the human population at 500 million. You remember the Guidestones that were destroyed during COVID? So, you know, where is what he's saying is false? Then they say that I specialize in conspiracy theorizing. Thank you so much. Yes, I do actually. He says that, then they say that I wasn't even sure of one of the things that he was sharing about the water. That is true. I hadn't heard of this specific thing that he said, and I said, I'll look into it more. That's called being honest rather than pretending that these things don't exist. I didn't just fact check him on the spot and say, that's not true, which is what someone like CNN would likely do. I just said, well, I'm going to look into that more, you know. That's called integrity. And then they went on to say that, oh, what he's talking about only accounts for 13% of water. 13% of water is a huge amount of water. I'm going to mute myself and cough briefly. So sorry, guys. Then they go on to say that the most hallucinatory statement was regarding weather modification. Well, weather modification is a stated, there are multiple countries that have legislation for weather modification. You have documents going back to the 70s in the United States talking about being able to control the weather, even control hurricanes, for goodness sake. And they also didn't really address the fact that, yes, there was a deal cut for the lithium mines to the tune of $90 billion just before the hurricane hit North Carolina, and the hurricane, you know, hurricanes don't typically go that way. And that the residents were actually silently protesting these lithium mines prior to this. So what exactly is conspiracy about all of that? Well, actually, it is conspiracy. That's the point. The world is filled with conspiracies of corrupt government officials colluding with organizations like the UN that are trying to set up a one world government, full of them, as evidenced by what's going on in Australia right now and across the world. And so I found that absolutely hilarious. You know, it's just further evidence that these outlets are scrambling right now. Some interesting things are happening in Romania with Calin. I just want to show people this because he won the first round, and now they're demanding a recount. So Romania's parliamentary vote risks being overshadowed by presidential race chaos. In Bucharest, hundreds of protesters. Oh no, go away. Why is this happening to me? Stop it. No. Oh my goodness. What is this? No. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what is happening with my browser at the moment. I'm going to close that. Very odd. Well, let's just continue with another web page. Calin Georgescu, the far-right outsider who could be Romania's new president. Stunned Romania and its European allies by leading the first round of the Eastern European country's presidential election is a far-right, self-styled outsider, critical of NATO, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Imagine. He led the first round of voting with 22.9% ahead of opposition centre-right candidate Elena Lasconi with 19.2% and will thus compete in the runoff on December 8. Should he win, Georgescu would head the country's armed forces, chair the Supreme Defence Council that decides on military aid, appoint the Prime Minister, chief judges, prosecutors, and Secret Service heads. Like, they paint him in this light and then they say, imagine all this stuff this guy would be in control of. Yeah, that's what happens. And so you can just see, you know, multiple hit pieces on him in Romania. This is Euronews. Romanian TikTok messiah, presidential candidate embodies hybrid war with West, say experts. So yeah, it's pretty incredible to watch the attacks on this man. I was in communication with him prior to our interview. I've spoken with him both online and offline. I perceive his his concerns and him to be a genuine person, but only time will tell, really, right? We judge based off what we see, and people's actions. So, judging by the fact that the establishment has just gone gun ho for this guy, and me in the process is a clear indication that he means business in the best possible way. Something very, very alarming is happening at the moment, which I want to alert people to. A contamination alert on the 15th of November 24, Coles sustainability in beef production with expanded use of drug Bovea. 3 beef suppliers now using Bovea that is proven to reduce cattle emissions, by at least 50%. Bovea is also known to affect male fertility and organs. So here's the media release from Coles. Coles boosts sustainability in beef production with expanded use of supplement. They call it a supplement. And you can actually see here major retailers joining forces with the UK dairy farmers to trial methane reducing feed additives. So this is also Morrison's, Tesco and Aldi that are using Bovea. I don't know about Woolworths yet. If they're smart, they'll make a statement. But this is really, really serious, and I'll explain to you why. Safety and efficacy of feed additive consisting of 3 nitroxypropanol or Bovea 10 for ruminants for milk production and reproduction. If you go to the conclusion of this study, which I'll just go down to, I'm trying to find the exact part. Well, you know what? I've clipped it here for you. So it says, it tells you the ingredients, and it says not for human use. Caution should be exercised when handling this product. It may damage male fertility and reproductive organs, potentially harmful when inhaled, and is a skin and eye irritant. Personal protective gear, including eyewear, a dust mask, and impervious gloves should be worn when handling this product. Operators Should wash hands after handling. If accidental eye exposure occurs, rinse eyes thoroughly with water. The safety data sheet contains more detailed occupational safety information. You can see the ingredients there, and it says that safety and effectiveness have not been evaluated in these animals. So this is something that should alarm absolutely everyone, and I would say stay away from these products as much as possible. You know, if your butchers cannot, even your butchers cannot guarantee that their products contain this. I mean, unless they're really in tune with exactly where they're coming from. And again, if they cannot give you an absolute guarantee, and I would even suggest in writing that they are not using Bovea, I would not go anywhere near those products. Again, genotoxicity has not been confirmed, meaning that they still don't know whether or not this is going to give you cancer. Okay, this is extremely serious. So please, Australians, tell everyone about Stockman Steaks. They are actually guaranteeing that none, I'm going to read you the guarantee, actually, none of our cattle have been supplemented with Bovea 10. The Australian news has been hit with the fact that Coles are already using it to reduce methane emissions. So they are confirming that none of their products at all are being fed none of their cattle at all are being supplemented with Bovea 10. Pardon. Their meat is 100% pasture raised, restaurant quality meat. You can get curated beef boxes, lamb boxes, carnivore boxes, beef and lamb, keto box, barbecue box. And the problem is that they tell you, oh, look, we're doing this now. At what point did this stuff start coming into the country? If anyone's bought meat from Coles, have they already been exposed to this extremely dangerous product? I don't know, but I can guarantee you per the Stockman Steaks guarantee that none of their animals have this. So please go and support them. By supporting them, you're also supporting Aussie Farmers, and you're getting restaurant quality meat at very reasonable prices, often even cheaper than the supermarkets where you just simply cannot trust the meat supply. And by using our link in the description below, and make sure you use Maria at checkout, you are always guaranteeing that you're also not only supporting Aussie Farmers, but supporting Zeee Media in the process. And we stand by these guys 100%. My family eats exclusively from Stockman Steaks. When I was in Australia, I would not touch any other meat other than theirs because I trust their meat wholeheartedly. So please support Stockman Steaks. This is a very, very alarming development with the meat supply. Now, I also want to show everyone, yes, I wanted to go through this clip from Joe Rogan. So Joe Rogan did this amazing interview, and it really was incredible. And we're reporting on this week on Media Blackout, but I just wanted to show you a portion of that interview. Read you a portion of that interview from Mark Anderson. So he's a Silicon Valley guy, and he says, we had meetings with Biden officials this spring that were the most alarming meetings I've ever been in, where they were taking us through their plans, and it was basically just full government control, like this sort of thing. There will be a small number of large companies that will be completely regulated and controlled by the government, they told us. They said, don't even start startups. There will be just no way that they can succeed. There's no way to permit that to happen. And what he was actually talking about there was AI startups as well, in particular, where the Biden administration had a plan to have 2 or 3 AI companies running the country. And this is the UN's AI World Society, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to play you Joe Rogan's clip of the AI government and then proposal, and then I want to talk about that because I fundamentally disagree with AI government. But we'll talk through some of this together.
Artificial general intelligence will emerge, and who knows how that affects. I've said publicly, and I'm kind of half joking, that we need AI government. You know, it sounds crazy to say, but instead of having this like alpha chimpanzee that runs the tribe of humans, how about we have some like really logical, fact-based, program that makes it like really reasonable and equitable in a way that we can all agree to.
Right.
Let's govern things in that manner.
Right. So you can actually simulate this today because you can go on these systems, ChatGPT or Claude or these others, and you can ask, how should we handle issue X? How should this be run?
Yeah, we've done that.
Right. How should the Department of Energy do whatever, nuclear policy or whatever? And what I find when I do that is I discover two things. Number one, of course, these things have the same problem social media's had, which is they're tremendously politically biased, and that's on purpose, and they need to fix that, and that's going to be a big topic in the next several years. But the other thing you learn is if you can get through the political, basically, bias and censorship, if you can actually get to a discussion of the actual issue, you get very sophisticated answers.
Yes.
Right? Very logical, very straightforward, and it will explain every aspect of the issue to you, and it'll take you through all the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it might be the way to go.
Yeah.
Which is so horrifying for people to think, because everyone's worried about the Terminators taking over the world. And like, if that's the first step, is we let them govern us.
Well, look, there's nothing stopping a politician from using this. There's nothing stopping a policymaker from using it, as a tool.
Right.
You start out, at the very least, you start out using it as a tool. There's nothing to prevent. Like, for example, I think military commanders in the field are going to have basically AI battlefield assistants that are going to advise them on strategy, tactics.
Yes.
Right, how to win conflicts, and then it'll start to work its way up, and then they'll be doing, war planning. And then if you're a general, if you're a sergeant or a colonel or a general, it's going to just mean you perform better.
Yes.
And so maybe there's like the sort of man machine kind of symbiotic relationship, and you could imagine that happening more in the policy process and in the political process.
Yeah. So my assessment of this, I'm not necessarily saying that they're trying to steer people towards that. I think that AI, and I'm going to do a huge monologue on this on Media Blackout, but essentially AI can be a really great tool to assist people in gathering information, or it can be used for video editing and things like that. It's really, really great tool, just like a Google search engine is, right? My concern is when we get into the topic of AI government, have people grown such a hate for their governments that they're now willing to accept an AI government? Because of course it would be more efficient. And there are a myriad of problems with that, including the lack of human input, the fact that who's programmed it, do we actually trust them? What are they trying to achieve in the background? Is this just another way to mask the plans of the UN where the AI world society is in full force, but this is just more palatable for people? I certainly have some concerns around some statements that Elon Musk has made, and I'll be very, very transparent with people. Even though this is unpopular, I don't care. I'm going to tell you the truth, how I see it. And so Clay Clark did a post, attention conservatives, what do the following Elon Musk posts mean? And I'm going to take you through a few of them. There's this one where he does a little devil emoji. Please let me use the CERN Large Hadron Collider. I am normal and can be trusted with a demonic technology unlike anything the world has ever seen. Well, I think he may have been mocking those that claim that from CERN. So I'm not saying he was asking to control CERN, but then we also have the only action needed to solve climate change is a carbon tax. He did a whole 8-minute video on it. That was just in February of 2024. And of course, we know that X is wanting to become a payments platform as well, which I think is an incredibly dangerous idea, because already you are shadow banned, even though he denies that exists on the platform. It absolutely does. People have posted their analytics, and you can see just the wave and the rainbow. And I know when I say some contentious things, it's you cannot tell me that only 2,000 of my 131,000 people on my page are seeing that, compared to something that's much milder and more entertaining, gets way more views. There's definitely algorithmic manipulation at play there. You can't convince me otherwise, and many people feel the same way. Not to mention people that get suspended for things like just criticizing the Israeli government. It's pretty ridiculous. Elon Musk is obviously friends with Netanyahu. He's made that clear. And so these things are extremely alarming. Obviously, when you go to when they say to you freedom of speech but not freedom of reach, that's called censorship, just worded nicer. And if you're going to change that to a payments platform, that turns into very quickly freedom to know that you have money in your bank account, but not freedom to access it. So I would avoid that at all costs. Many people know I made the decision not to be monetized on X. They've offered it to me. I don't want it because I don't want to link my ID to your platform. That's digital ID, forming a social credit score. Maybe that's not their intentions, but later on, that's what it'll lead to. So no, not for me. Now, has he changed his stance since February of this year? I don't know. But a carbon tax is ridiculous. Climate change is a lie. And hopefully with the fact that Trump, is very open about the fact that he knows that climate change is a lie, global warming is a scam, green stuff is a scam. Hopefully Elon's thoughts about this aren't going to actually influence Trump. We already know that Trump has said, he and RFK disagree on some things. And by the way, that's totally fine. They disagree on some things, particularly the environment. Trump wants to drill, baby, drill. RFK Jr. doesn't like that. And so Trump said, I'm going to keep him away from the environmental stuff because, we have fundamental disagreements on that. So hopefully Elon doesn't influence Trump in this way because first of all, there's no such thing as climate change. And secondly, I'm probably going to get banned on YouTube for saying that. I don't care. Go to Rumble. There's no such thing as climate change. And we certainly don't need to be taxed for it. And by the way, that's an idea that comes straight out of the UN, the globalists, which Elon claims to hate. So I really hope he's evolved on these ideas, but if he hasn't, hopefully Trump won't be influenced by them. There's also the fact that he says sounds like he doesn't realize Tesla makes the vaccine machine for CureVac, so he was involved in manufacturing those injections. He said in May of 2024, synthetic mRNA is basically digital medicine with incredible potential. So even though he has criticized the COVID injections, he still thinks that synthetic mRNA is a good thing. And America is the new Rome. What else is there? Please consider working at Neuralink. Short-term solve brain and spine injuries. Long-term human AI symbiosis. Later will be species level important. And so, no, we don't want brain chips. We don't want this crazy stuff. I think it's a terrible idea. I think that anyone who implants themselves with these devices is taking a serious risk. I understand the case for paraplegics, improving their quality of life and all of these sorts of things. But as we've learnt, even from Ido Bachelet of the Bar Ilan University in Israel, when he said, well, I can fit 1,000 billion nanobots into this vaccine and we just inject it into people and then we can control them because they're now connected to the internet. I mean, this is what he said in 2013, and in 2015 he partnered with Pfizer. Has that technology been weaponized against people? What can something like Neuralink eventually be weaponized against people for? So, I'm concerned about all of those things. But you've got the World Bank talking about the fact that providing legal identity for all, including birth registration by 2030, is a target shared by the international community. And of course, they want this to be a digital ID. And we have the global security market saying that the booming digital ID market has tripled or will triple to $133 billion by 2030. So some of these things that you even have Kissinger speaking from the grave to avoid AI wiping out humans. People should be biologically engineered to work better with AI. So these things are concerning to me. I think we need to keep an eye on them. Again, I'm not necessarily saying certain people have bad intentions, but at any time this stuff can be weaponized, and we really do need to keep a close eye on it. I think there is a lot of alarming crossing over between Elon's businesses and his involvement in the government. I think there's potentially, conflict of interest there. Even though I like a lot of what he stands for, I like the platform. I'm just trying to be fair about this and not be, you know, a sycophant. That's not what journalism is. And it's really disappointing to see the fact that, you know, a lot of right-wing or alternative media just doesn't touch these topics because it's not really popular to do so. That's what we exist for. That's what the public expect from us. And so we really need to do better in you know, making sure that we're just aware of some of these things. I'm very quickly going to speak to you about the sponsors of our shows, and then I'll have a quick look at your comments. We've got about 15 minutes left of the stream. So I mentioned Stockman Steaks to you. I just want to mention the December promo for Stockman Steaks. I've got it here. So if you spend $250, you'll receive a 4-pack of their premium Wagyu burger patties. And if you spend $400, you'll receive 8 of their premium Wagyu burger patties. Fantastic for Christmas, you know, having burger patties on the barbie for that period. They're open the whole way through Christmas, and you can make sure that you're getting not only delicious meat, and it really is delicious, and you can just look at our comments anytime I post about Stockman Steaks and see all the people that say this is the best tasting meat I've had since I was a child or in my life, you know, but you also know that it's safe. It doesn't have, it's not filled with the stuff that the supermarkets are putting in their meat, which literally we don't know if it's going to give people cancer, but we certainly know it's causing male infertility. So let's stay the heck away from that. Let's get restaurant quality meat. You just need to use the code Maria at the checkout to make sure you get your free, either again 4-pack of premium Wagyu burger patties if you spend $250, or an 8-pack of the premium Wagyu burger patties if you spend $400. And you're getting literally, in my opinion, the best meat in the country. So support our Aussie farmers by supporting Stockman Steaks. We also have the satellite phone store. I do not go anywhere without my satellite phone. The times that we're living in are far too precarious to depend on the cell networks. So we encourage everyone to go to the satellite phone store. The reason why we trust them, they personally encrypt their communications themselves, and we know them well and we trust them. And at the moment, there are some really great deals that you can get. You can save quite a bit of money on. You can see here on the Iridium Global 150, you can save $596 on this at the moment. The Iridium Shield Max 150, which gives you, you have robust satellite connectivity with Faraday and ballistic protection with the phone and that bag. You can save over $1,000. So they've got some really, really fantastic deals at the moment at the satellite phone store. And of course, the more you spend, the more you save. So if you get the Immersat Global Duo, you're actually saving $1,790. On the Bivy Stick, you're saving $329. This device is fantastic because you can actually, you don't need a satellite phone. You just connect your Bivy Stick to the satellite cell service. Even if the cell towers are down and you connect it via Bluetooth to your phone, which of course, hopefully you're keeping a spare phone in a Faraday bag for situations like this, you can actually text your loved ones and let them know that you're okay. And it has an option to call emergency services if you choose to share your location. This actually did save lives in Maui. They saved 14,000 people in Maui with the satellite phones. So this is super, super important. So go and check them out at sat123.com/Maria, or give them a call. They also have power solutions. If you're in Australia, head to Gold Bullion Australia Group. The markets at the moment, it's really, really interesting. So Trump, before I go on to this, Trump has actually announced that he's going to deploy 100% tariffs on the BRICS countries who are trying to move away from the dollar. He says that idea of trying to move away from the dollar is over. We require a commitment from these countries that they will not create neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, which is very interesting, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. So obviously Trump is doing what he believes is going to save the US dollar, save the US economy, which means that now there's going to be a huge tug of war, and we don't know what the repercussions of this are going to be. So in such an unstable global financial market, I don't trust digital currencies, as I've told you all before, because of where this is all heading. And so my way that I safeguard me and my family is gold and silver. So if you're in Australia, head to Gold Bullion Australia group. And if you are in America, you can go to kepm.com/Maria for Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. These are the people that I personally, both in Australia and the US, use. And I find both their service and their pricing to be fantastic. They've always looked after me, and all of the feedback that we've had from everyone that's utilized their service has always been positive. Zeee Media keeps our really long-term relationships with our sponsors and our partners, and so we're so grateful for them. And by supporting them, you're supporting us, keeping us able to continue being independent. Now, it looks like I have some super chats here on Rumble, so I'm going to have a look at those briefly. SpaceX has edited a live stream after uploading that live stream to YouTube. The deception as to why is bad, but this sets a dangerous precedent. Well, that person, thank you for the super chat. I encourage everyone to check that out. I will do so myself. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm very, very interested in that. Any type of, lies that the public are being told, and I will most certainly happily talk about it if I can verify it myself. We also have another super chat here. Oh, they're both the same. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for those super chats. And I think it's really important that people make sure that they are not deceived. Stay independently minded, no matter what the media tells you, including me. Okay, I know that we're all in this time now where we trust independent media, but I've always said from the start, don't just believe me on face value. Go research the stuff that I present for yourself. Make sure that you're sure of it. I'm a human. I will occasionally make mistakes. I do my due diligence, believe me, but don't just blindly trust me, please. And that is something you'll never hear out of the ABC. All right, so let me just look at some of these comments, and then I'm also going to go to X before we finish up. I've got 10 minutes left on the stream before X cuts it, now 9. Just a heads up for all the commies, us rednecks in the South ain't giving up anything. I can promise you this. We got the best variety and numbers guaranteed. I'll tell no more than that. Well, let me tell you that being in the South certainly gives you a different perspective on life. People in the South are a different breed of human that I am grateful to God for. I can assure you of that. Australians are really, really suffering at the moment. And I think that, I've had the benefit of being able to speak a lot more freely while I'm here. And I'll obviously continue to do that wherever I am, but there are more protections for speech here. So perhaps I've done more for Australia from here. We'll see how things develop at this stage. At least until the inauguration, I'll be here. With a satellite phone, you can say bum and there's nothing they can do about it. It's all beyond censorship. Well, certainly where the satellite phone store is concerned. Someone saying I haven't used YouTube in a long time. Yeah, I don't really use it either. Just for music sometimes, but Rumble's improving so much. Rumble has, added a lot more features. They've got more categories. They're apart from the massive issues I was having with it last night, normally very seamless. So I'm just grateful for Rumble. People talking about machine guns and things. I don't know that you're allowed those. But anyway, someone saying, okay, people are arguing amongst themselves. I'm not going to keep going through that. Australia is fixing to be a Chinese slave operation if you don't act. That is absolutely true. And I think that there will be a lot that comes out. And obviously, as I said, I'll be doing as much as I can to educate the public in this upcoming election and try to secure a better result for Australia. Let me have a look at some of these comments on X. Can I even see the comments? Do I even have the I don't know that I have the live. Let me see. Oh dear. I can't even see the comments. I apologize, X. It's not actually showing me the comments in the chat here. So I do apologize about that. But maybe next time I can figure out how to feed the comments through to me so that I can actually respond to you guys. We've got a couple more minutes here. So if you have, I wonder if it's going to come through for me now. No, it doesn't. Why can't I see the X chat? That is just bizarre. All right. YouTube, perhaps. What do we have on YouTube? We have a few comments here. My mum and dad conspired to conceive me and it worked. That's no theory. Yeah, someone saying Elon Musk loves transhumanism. He wants human cyborgs. Well, that's what he said. And, you know, I'm very, very concerned about that. I don't think that that's the way that the world needs to go in. Someone asking, will I be live on YouTube again soon? So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm just broadcasting to Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, and X. And I'm going to do that for as long as I can on these platforms. But I always encourage people to go to our Rumble. It's just a better platform, you know, to watch and engage on live streams. And obviously X is good for that as well. What else do we have? You do you, Maria. We continue to support independent media. God bless you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys. I really, really value humanity so much. And I mean that with all my heart because, you know, when you all know that it can be overwhelming at times, looking at the agenda, seeing, you know, especially since COVID, we've sort of almost lived with looking over our shoulder at all times. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's healthy to do all the time, but I am saying that there is a healthy level of skepticism that needs to continue to exist. And we shouldn't just blindly trust everyone. We should give people a chance. Certainly giving Trump and Elon and RFK Jr., all of these, you know, time. He's not even in yet. Okay, so let's see what eventuates. But if there are things that I see that are concerning, I'll always alert people to them, and people can make up their own minds. And that's what this is all about. I support your free thought, guys. And I always will. I'm just witnessing the human resilience, witnessing the fact that people just refuse to bow to tyranny. Doesn't matter how hard they go, doesn't matter how many things they come at us with. You know, people are saying, well, you know, Australia is now becoming China. Well, yeah, but are we going to let it? Yeah, it is. It is. Let's be honest. It's being completely overrun by these criminals. But are we going to let it? Just like the US had a resounding absolutely not during the last election. And, you know, the question remains as to which direction it's going to go in, but certainly a better direction than it would have under Kamala Harris. I mean, the country would have been destroyed in about 3.5 minutes under that clown. You know, so we're not going to let it. We're just not going to let it happen. So I plan to be very involved in next year's election in Australia, as I said, and I'll do whatever I can to continue raising awareness as to what's happening in that country. Okay, someone's saying, do I ever weep into my pillow? No, I don't do that. That's weird, and I don't do that. Not condemning those who feel like they may need to weep sometimes, but no, I don't have that desire. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I will notify on all our socials the next time that we're live. It's probably not going to be again next week. I will be away for a little bit, but we do have content coming out, lots of exciting conversations, and I look forward to bringing those to you all. God bless, and I will see you all very, very soon. Zee Media is proud to partner with freedom-loving businesses like Gold Bullion Australia Group, Australia's leading dealer of gold and silver bullion. In such uncertain times in the market, many are switching to lasting physical assets like gold and silver rather than depending on the crumbling financial system. GBA Group is an Aussie partner you can trust. They have a huge range of available gold and silver at competitive prices, a friendly, experienced team on standby for all of your questions, are family-owned and have been specialising in precious metals for over 40 years. They're looking forward to helping anyone that has come from Zee Media, so click the link in the description below, visit one of their offices now spread across Sydney, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne and Singapore, or call 1300 618 363 and consider securing your wealth today.